What was the incident in your high school? We had a teacher who was super nice. She was out for 3 days and we didn't question it much until she wasn't there again for the next week. Turns out her husband murdered her quite brutally. Was so quiet the next few months for that class we didn't really know how to process it. He's in prison and kids with the grandparents last I read. Quite sad. When I was in high school, our Hicktown school had a gang called the Cobras who would spray paint cobras on school property, write it on desks, in the bathrooms, basically everywhere. It was dumb and many of the students had a good idea who was a part of this gang but the teachers didn't. The principal would call down groups for photos in the yearbook, siblings, sports teams, drama club, etc. on overhead announcements. And one day they called down the Cobras for a school photo for the yearbook. To try and figure out who they were, they caught almost half the students who were defacing school property because they showed up for the group photo. Edit. No, they didn't get a photo in the yearbook. Edit 2. Multiple people have shown up from my high school. Yes, our mascot was the Huskers. Principal found weed in the boys' bathroom, called an assembly and told us we had to vote for who we think it was. I think the principal's son got like 98% of the votes. Suddenly the voting system wasn't valid. We didn't even coordinate it. Everyone had the same idea at once and it was glorious. My middle school gym teacher, whose name was ironically MR.D., was busted for soliciting sex from a teen. There had been rumors since my freshman year about the assistant principal taking a certain special interest in a few of the girls. Almost everyone wrote it off as high school kids starting stupid rumors. Until my senior year, when 4 police officers came in after school and walked him out in cuffs in front of a few hundred students watching a basketball game against another school. He was ducking one of the girls in my grade and selling her oxycodone in the hallways. Got 10 years. Senior year we received our yearbooks the week of graduation and to our surprise the full page action shot for men's soccer showcased our player jumping up and lifting one leg to trap and control the ball. Unfortunately, he forgot to wear underwear that game and the tip of his wiener was fully visible sticking out of the bottom of his shorts. Our school had over 4,000 students and we were required to bring our yearbook into security to have the D sharpied over or we would not be able to walk at graduation. We were all called to an emergency assembly and told a student had died. Her friends were distraught and even the people who didn't know her went quiet. I think I remember a group of students putting together a type of memorial card. The whole morning was morbid, until the dead girl arrived at school and didn't know what was going on. This kid was doing pull-ups on a door frame in our wood shop and some of his friends thought it would be funny to place a pipe bender under his ass. When he finished his pull-ups and dropped off the frame, the pipe bender went straight up his butt and tore his rectum open. Kid didn't graduate cause he spent so much time in the ER and now he has to it in a bag. It was the last day for the senior class. There were only 2 significant pranks that day. The principal's office was filled with balloons and glitter, and the main hallway entrance was saran wrapped. About an hour before the day ended, the principal came over the loudspeaker and said that anyone caught participating in a prank would not walk at the graduation ceremony. About a minute after he said this, the fire alarm went off. A guy who was near the principal said that he got angry and said out loud someone's not walking before storming off. An entire wing of the school was hazy and smoke was pouring out of a classroom. Turns out the science teacher was doing a laser experiment for his class and created too much smoke with a smoke machine. At my high school, seniors had to do a senior project. Can be anything really. Just plan it out and follow through. A very popular and well-liked senior made an end-of-day announcement that tomorrow morning he'd be in the student parking lot working on it and needs as many other folks there as possible. The next day he drives into the student parking lot, set up a tripod and a camera. A large crowd gathered round. Just about 30 minutes before the first bell, he hit record. Thanks everyone for showing. Then he reached into his car, pulled out a handgun and killed himself before anyone could react. No one knows why. He was a great guy with a bright future. Never know what struggles others are going through. I think about it frequently and take that into consideration to try and be nice to others with random acts of kindness. Edit. Link folks found of the news story. Oh man. One time this kid I was friends with brought this hot sauce called our bomb. 1.5 million Scoville units. Hotter than hell. To high school and let a bunch of kids try it during lunch. I mean at least 30 kids. Some kids really started freaking out because that it is ridiculously hot. Like you're supposed to add 1 or 2 drops to a big batch of chili to make it spicy. Some were trying to show off and took a swig of it and ended up vomiting everywhere from the heat panic. Multiple kids had to go to the nurse and be sent home because they way overdid it. Although I think most just really had no idea what a Scoville unit was or that they made hot sauce that was that ridiculously hot. It was chaos. I tried it as well. A dime size amount. And I couldn't concentrate on anything but chugging milk. And I'm really good with spicy foods. Finally the principal came on the intercom and said, whoever brought the hot sauce please, just stop. My friend got into some pretty big trouble for that one. 2 kids got caught ducking in the ceiling. Like they took panels off the ceiling, climbed into the small space there, and ducked. During lunch if you picked up trash and turned it into the yard attendant you would get a dime per piece. One kid did it religiously, every lunch, and was tormented and bullied the whole time. Kids would knock the trash out of his hands, push him over when he picked it up, call him all sorts of names. They were relentless. Then in junior year, he bought a 1966 Mustang. Not an incident really, but I still have respect for that kid. Someone called in a bomb threat to my middle school and elementary school. Instead of evacuating both buildings we were in lockdown for 3 hours and they condensed all of us in the middle school. We later evacuated to the high school only like 300 feet away and were stuck there for hours because our parents couldn't get to us. All of our phones were taken because they didn't want us giving information, so there were like 700 white moms and suburbans simultaneously having a heart attack trying to get to the school. We learned later they called this into almost every school in the area. There was a robbery at a Bank of America while the cops were preoccupied. Someone found a gun on campus, and like 3 or 4 posts on social media about shooting up the school. One of them actually caused a lockdown during class because the student was across the street from the school with a gun. According to someone who supposedly got on the police radio frequency, they never revealed the whole story to try to reduce rumors from spreading, which just lead to more rumors. It was pretty funny. Edit. Oh. Some girl set a trash can on fire to escape taking a test. My freshman year some dude stabbed a guy that was bullying his cousin. Made it to the news and everything. We had to pass through metal detectors for the next 2 years. It was crazy. Not high school, but I remember in elementary school, we got put on lockdown because someone thought there was a rabid fox on the field. It was a fat orange cat. Someone threw a fork, hit some 12-year-old girl and got stuck in her head. I went to a private school where you weren't allowed to have your phone on you. One day the vice principal bursts into a classroom and says in a panic, "Quick, I need to use someone's phone." 10 kids got detention and their phones confiscated. Screw you Mr. Kiefer. During one of the semi-formal dances of the year, not prom, some school official thought it would be a great idea to screen the underwear choices of the girls attending. For morality purposes because thongs were of the devil. Their great plan for implementation was to literally pull girls aside from the ticket line and just lift up their skirts. Right there. No curtain. No other room. Nothing. Just right in front of the gym doors. While everybody else was in line. Able to see. This was a NY Times quote, said one parent called her to report that a teacher had pulled a girl's top to see if she was wearing a bra. The baseball team gained notoriety after raping freshman entrants to their team with a broomstick during hazing. And then there was the law. Why can't seniors leave campus for lunch? Seniors with cars used to be able to leave to get fast food. This was discontinued because some jackasses went to the local daycare center up the hill, like a 15-minute walk away, and started flashing their genitals at the children. Edit. And the internet denizens are correct. This is the infamous RBHS, where we have valedictorians at over 5.0 GPAs, nationally ranked sports ball teams, and egregious sexual scandal because there's something strange in the water of the San Diego suburbs. The school's library had huge impressive displays of taxidermy, a huge collection that started well over 100 years ago. Truly a sight to behold. Anyway, someone smashed a window and ducked a badger. Kid punched a school cop. He pepper sprayed the entire hallway of kids including me going to class. Tons of PPL ended up going to the hospital. Missed my class though lol. We had an in-building sub who would be the first sub called and usually worked every day at the school. A few months into school he was arrested and fired because it turned out he was getting 2 students to blow him after school. They were 14. He was caught because one of the girls' parents had installed some program on their computer and found the AIM chats. He ended up killing himself before going to jail. I didn't transfer in until after it happened, but I had a classmate who was in the room when it happened. Our 9th grade year, 1989 to 1990. One of the guys in the theater drama class had been threatening suicide and to hurt friends and classmates. She and all her friends went to the teachers and principal, but were told they could do nothing because he had no history and therefore he had to do something first. He did. Walked in mid-class, took the entire room, including my friend and her friends who had reported his threats, hostage, brandished the gun around repeatedly, then shot one of their mutual friends who was trying to talk him down. Kid lost his ear, but not his life. Thankfully, she was still giving legal depositions 2 years later when I met her, which is how I heard the story. Some boys in the saxophone section of marching band made a Christmas card featuring them nude except for Santa hats and their sax covering their sax. They distributed to the whole band, which at our school was a pretty large number of people. School tried to confiscate them for being lewd but of course they couldn't get them all. Besides, people had camera phones and Facebook. This was back in the 70s. In 7th grade some girl just started groping the boys. If you got close to her she would immediately grab your groin or butt, whichever was closer. Sometimes she would grab both at the same time. Of course the boys started groping her back and it turned into a common thing to do and she let it happen. The boys then started groping other girls. Some went along with it and thought it was funny. Others got upset and told teachers and the principal. The principal called a big assembly and read the riot act. The girl that started it all acted shocked and outraged but the adult knew she was the one that started the whole thing. Another school in the district had a student come to an assembly dressed in a KKK hood so we all had to have a huge assembly and there were a bunch of posters around school about what to do if you feel discriminated against. We never had a school camp because the last time they held one, 3 students got pregnant. My high school had a decade-themed talent show every year. They would do it in our auditorium which had an orchestra pit underneath part of the stage. Close to the end of the show a lot of people went out on the stage and started dancing, and the stage collapsed. Only a couple people were hurt, but one of my friends broke his pelvis and had to be in a wheelchair for a while. It must been a slow day for the news because it made all the way to the BBC, and Tosho did a bit on it. End of senior year, some kid was caught on video having sex with his freshman girlfriend in an abandoned stairwell. Everyone saw the video and talked about it for weeks. I think he was charged with sexual assault and was not able to graduate. Kid in the year above decided, mid-ike lesson, that he needed to drop the kids off. Teacher wouldn't let him go so he decided to move to the back of the classroom and proceeded to it in an empty Pringles can. After dropping the log he went round offering out Pringles to people. One kid stuck his hand in blind and got a handful of it. The kid was unsurprisingly pissed off and threw the handful of it at the kid who had the can. There was a whole fight and it was thrown over the whole room. It all had to be industrially cleaned and even after that it still stank in there. It was grim. Someone took a massive hit in the boys' bathroom. Like huge. Like so big that there is still a debate about whether or not it was actually human or if it was smuggled in somehow. So notable that everyone from my consumer ec class got up individually to go to the bathroom and drop their jaw in awe at the absolute spectacle that was this it. Multiple jokes were made about it at school events and to this day no one knows who did the poop. 2 guys in my year decided to bring about 50 cabbages into school and start a cabbage fight in the science corridor. All hell broke loose and cabbage leaves everywhere. About 100 students joined in lol. When I was in 11th grade the big incident was this 10th grader who sent a video to her boyfriend of her fingering herself while playing a Chiz Love Sosa and this video somehow got out into the basketball game between us and our rival school. They started singing Love Sosa and it kicked off. Her boyfriend got thrown out the game. The cool guy Spanish teacher got arrested for ducking students. Also the athletic director got caught bribing the families of good athletes to be there. Like 4 people from my year were in the NBA. Ours was a sad one. Our boys basketball team was traveling home from a game in inclement weather. The van caught some slush and lost control into the path of an oncoming tractor trailer. The coach was driving and survived. He lost his wife and 7 students. A very sad tragedy. Some unknown guy killed a prof in his office and apparently hid out in the drywall space in the medical school building for a few days. The police ended up having to clear out that building like it's a war zone, and they never caught the killer. They think it was either 1. A crazy student, 2. A bit of office politics that gone murderous as the professor was just about to get the plum gig in the department, 3. An escaped crazy person from the local mental hospital, which was for some reason on the grounds of the university right behind the physics building, 4. Some combination thereof. So every school has their weird kid. We're going to call my school's weird kid T. Everyone knew him and knew something was off. He was an angry kid, but otherwise functional. Was in band, normal classes, but was really weird. Some examples: got mad and broke a window in a practice room. Was found butt naked in the room the color guard girls kept their things. Threatened people etc. But we never actually hurt anyone. He was actually very kind to me. Well, our senior year he said he had a big surprise for the last day of classes. Half the school didn't show up, honestly expecting him to bring a gun or something. Lo and behold, T shows up to school in a dress and a wig and makeup with a new name. Totally normal sweet girl now. Waitress. Nice. You'd never know. TLDR. We thought the weird kid was gonna kill us, but instead he came to school as a girl. Edit. A few comments about transphobia. T knows I posted this and actually read it before posting. She got a laugh from it and commented on how much happier of a person she is now. Somebody threw a dead deer into the quad. I think they only got in trouble because they broke some lights on the roof while doing it. A girl in her final year got pregnant and was hiding it from her parents. She was 18 at the time though. She went to the counselor, qualified clinical psychologist, who was helping her through it. The counselor walked her through all of her options and did what she was supposed to do. The girl, I think possibly in denial, carried the baby to quite far along but then wanted out. She was also starving herself. Long story short, I also can't remember all the exact details. She apparently went to a dodgy clinic where she convinced them she was much earlier in the pregnancy, guessing they did no tests, and they gave her abortions pills or something like that. Like I said, can't remember the exact deets, so don't crucify me. She started profusely bleeding in class the next day and was rushed to hospital. The baby survived for about 4 hours and then passed away. Obviously by his point her parents were there. Upon questioning, she named our school counselor and said that she had forced her to have an abortion. This whole case went to court. Our poor school counselor could not say anything or defend herself publicly until the case was done. We had reporters outside our school gates for ages. It all came out at the end that the girl had lied and the counselor was completely innocent and had just done what she was supposed to do and had offered the girl all the information and advice for her to make an informed decision. I was amazed at how professional the counselor was and how she did everything by the book when it came to speaking about her client. Anyway, that was crazy. Last year, in a middle school in my district, there was a baking contest. Some 8th grader put cum in a pastry and gave it to a teacher judge. She ate it and later ended up pressing charges. Also, for the senior prank at my school, someone brought in a giant dildo, 5+ ft tall, covered it with lube and glued it to the floor. Someone I knew tried to call in a bomb threat from a payphone during finals week. This was in the 90s and nobody took him seriously. And the school found out who it was and suspended him for like a couple days. I'd imagine now the school would go on lockdown, or just close and not let any students in. Since he did it early in the morning, the kid would probably end up getting arrested by a SWAT team with a bomb squad nearby, cost the city a fortune, get jailed, or at least expelled, and their life would be ruined. A teacher in my high school walked into the unisex bathroom because someone reported that 2 kids went into it together. He walked in, found nobody in there, and as he walked out the 2 kids fell from the ceiling completely naked and onto the floor in front of him. In my primary school someone had spread it around the bathroom which they then blamed on me. Word got around and it was known by teachers and students that I had spread it around the bathroom, even though I was in class. My teacher denied that though. I left that school rather soon after the it spreading incident. SMH so much damn it, but one I can remember was nude trading ring going around between kids trading nudes of girls to the point where people were getting their phones screened. Two girls were fighting over boy. They were in the bathroom, in the same stall. While they were fighting, one of the girls took out a pair of scissors and stabbed the other in the eye. The girl who stabbed her was expelled and the other girl turned out to be just fine and went back to school like everything was normal. The creepy part was, my classroom was the closest one to the bathroom and we didn't hear anything. We just saw the cops. It creeps me out to think it happened a couple feet away from me. Gym cooling system overheated and caught on fire during the homecoming parade. That and state police had to show up 2 years ago after an increase of freshman fights in the cafeteria. It got to the point to where there were some rumors that school security had to use a taser on one of the kids after a fight to subdue. The rumor was complete BS, and our football team had to cancel a home game and concede the game over potential threats. It was a crappy junior year, 2017 to 2018. My junior year, they took a group of us on a college visit. We had some time to explore the campus on our own. 2 girls ended up at the frat house. When it was time to leave, they were nowhere to be found. They finally came to the bus about 45 minutes late, completely it-faced drunk. They apparently had sex with at the frat house as well and one of them ended up pregnant from it. Family sued the school but settled out of court. So this happened yesterday and it was pretty wild for a Canadian school. At the end of the day there was a police car at the front of the school. Someone said they saw a kid get arrested when they went to the washroom. At the end of the day, a cop and the principal were standing at both back passenger windows talking to someone inside. We all just assumed that someone was getting arrested for selling drugs or something. The next day my homeroom teacher told us between 3rd and 4th period, the 2 afternoon periods in Canada, a former student who was about 20 years old blended in with students and snuck into the school hallways. He wandered through the hallways stealing from unlocked lockers and actually stole about 10 laptops from teachers' classrooms somehow. They ended up catching him at the Tim Hortons down the road. Not sure what's gonna happen to him, but someone said his mom was his getaway vehicle a couple blocks down the road. He just had to stop at Timmy's first. Only in Canada do people have to stop for a coffee and a donut mid-robbery. High School 1, Justin's, they make rings and ye-books, was on campus to sell us our class rings. They had a Chicago Bears Super Bowl ring along with other famous rings they made. Somebody stole the Super Bowl ring. We were all called into an assembly to find the ring. The Justin's guy was close to tears. The ring was found in the hallway after the assembly was let out. High School 2, a couple girls got in a fight at the bus stop. One of them cut the other up with a box cutter and then tossed battery acid on her. Which guy takes massive id off the top floor of a massive stairwell? Same stairwell. Someone drops a pressurized can of soda cracking open a teacher's skull. Someone brought in a decommissioned World War I authentic stick grenade. The entire school was evacuated onto one yard for 4 hours while bomb squad were on their way. Our school's counselor who took kids out of lessons to help with low self-esteem committed suicide. That one's a bit sad tbh. Drama teacher got arrested for convincing 2 14-year-old students to have sex while he watched and he still works there. And a music teacher got sacked for coming in drunk. Twice. I love lower class Britain. Went to a Catholic high school. The chapel was on the basement level, very secluded, and always left unlocked so students could go pray. No one ever did. One day a couple of students went in there to have sex on the altar. Turns out they ended up trying anal and the girl id all over the altar. The chapel was locked after that. We had a lot of other incidents but that was the one we can laugh about. A football player with the last name Osipanam got punished for summit and was no longer allowed to walk the stage for graduation. One day, a friend of his pulled up in a truck outside of the cafeteria during lunch, slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and proceeded to sprint inside. He streaked through half the cafeteria with a Spider-Man mask on and free Paham painted on his bare ass. Staff tried to grab him and stop him. and despite him literally slipping on a piece of food and falling, he escaped valiantly, as any hero should. Eventually, Parham was once again allowed to walk the stage, although I'm sure the stunt wasn't the only reason for it. Kid 1 challenged Kid 2 to a fight after school in the parking lot. Kid 1 was waiting and talking smack and attracted a large crowd. Kid 2 shows up with his hand behind his back and enters the arena. Kid 2 reveals a chair leg, clubs Kid 1 in the dome and puts him down. Kid 2 escapes in his car. Police grab him a short while later and spends the night in jail on assault. Kid 1 goes to hospital, gets stitches,